Hey, good evening, everybody. Now, apparently, we've all got to be afraid again. There was an article in the Daily Express in the UK today that says COVID Kraken is ripping through the UK. Symptoms of the disease. So, since the beginning of this whole coronavirus episode, it started in China, obviously, and then there was supposedly a second wave, and that was called the Indian variant. And then there was a third wave, and that was called the Thai variant or something. And then there was the South African variant, and then there was the English variant, and then there was the Mexican variant. I made a joke at the time. Look, they're just going through the countries that have foods named after them. The next one's probably going to be called the Vietnamese variant. And you know what? It was actually something called and named the Vietnamese variant. So the powers that be in the World Health Organization decided, okay, well, we're not going to name them after countries anymore because that might be offensive to people who live in the countries that they're naming these so-called strains, well, actual strains of coronavirus after. So then they started calling them alpha, beta, delta, etc. So the alpha and delta were supposedly these ones that caused a higher number of infections than others. And then there was Omicron, which was a more, and as people pointed out, that was an anagram of moronic. But that was what was going around apparently last year. Now, of course, coronaviruses, rhinoviruses, adenoviruses, influenza viruses just go round in the winter. That's nothing unusual. But what is unusual is if a mainstream media organization or all of them collectively all around the world call a particular strain a new name and then start talking about it and obsessively measuring how many people have got it and how many people test positive for it, even if they use a PCR test, which the inventor, Kerry Mullins, said isn't much use for actually determining the presence of pathogens. But never mind, it all died down a bit, and then there was monkeypox came along a few months ago in the summer of 2022. But now there's a new variant, because there's always new variants of viruses. They are mutating constantly and continually. But they've decided to nickname a particular new variant the Kraken. Now, the Kraken was a scary eight-legged sea monster in legend. Something to be very, very afraid of that could obviously kill a lot of people. That's what the Kraken was, you know. And but to actually name a coronavirus here is subconsciously linking it to something that is a monster. So instantly, you know, because you all have these cultural references to ancient mythology and so on, then you instantly sort of think, oh my goodness, the Kraken is here. Well, the thing is, I'm not particularly afraid myself. I've never had one of these things, or two or three or four of those things. So I am fine with my natural bodily systems that I've had since birth. Let's put it that way. So I think we see here another big nudge from people who are working in behavioral psychology in order to stir up some emotions linked to certain words and phrases, introduce new words into the language to create a new narrative that something big is going on that the mainstream media can name and then talk about for weeks and weeks on end. So apparently this thing was first detected in New York at the end of October, and now it's spread to 70 countries, as they say, and it's the dominant strain of coronavirus around the world. But if you actually look in the articles and read down to the bottom, what they say is completely negates the scary headline, because they say in all of the articles I've read, whether they're in English, in the USA, the German ones that I've seen, they all say that it's a mild variant, and it doesn't produce many severe symptoms, if any severe symptoms at all. So despite the scary headlines, really, it seems it's all a storm in a teacup, and there's nothing to be afraid of.